Right, chapter 6, spirituality, the blessing. What is the essence of that?
We are, whether we think we are or not, we are spiritual beings. We're
Yes.
connected, and I'm defining that in a way that's really very general. Spirit is a word that also means breath in many languages. So there's a deep understanding at the earliest stages of humanity's languages that there's a connection between our breath and what we've come to call the spiritual world.
Mhm.
That is a connection between what is within us, the breath we take in, and the outer world into which we breathe, the much larger world. And that when we breathe, we can use breath as a way to connect with what is so much larger than ourselves. We are creatures who need meaning and purpose in our lives. It's not that we can't survive without meaning and purpose. People do, but it's very hard to thrive. And that meaning and purpose really is, and especially the older we become, we find that it's not just about basic survival needs, having enough food and having shelter and having a sexual partner, that there's much more. There's much more to life. There's much more depth in a relationship. There's much more um, value and importance in what we can contribute to the world around us, to not only to the people who are closest to us in our family, but to the larger world, that we are, in fact, connected to the larger world, whether we call it nature, whether we call it other people, whether we call it the universe or the Great Spirit or God, that there is a connection that's there if we pay attention, and that if we treasure that connection and make it an intimate part of our lives, it can make all the difference it gives us a reason to live. It gives us a reason, and not just to survive, but to live and to thrive and to celebrate life. And there are many, many ways to experience the spiritual. There are thousands and thousands of pathways, some of which have to do with religion, some of which have nothing to do with religion. But the meditations, whether it's the quiet, soft belly breathing or expressive meditations like shaking and dancing, the more we do them, the more we find ourselves opening up to a realm of peace, a realm of sort of, the word you used was beautiful, the acceptance of what's going on, the world of connection to something larger than ourselves. So these are pathways toward the spiritual. Another is being in nature. There's nothing like, going for a walk. I'm looking out my window. I got this house. The house is a perfectly nice house, but not that remarkable, except I've got trees out back. And
Mm.
just looking at those trees every day just helps to renew me and helps me to, you're looking at the trees. So, it helps me to feel that connection to that larger world. And for those who live, I mean, I live in the city, I'm very fortunate, but I've worked a lot with people who don't have views of trees as I do from their homes. Just going to the park, walking around the park for 15, 20 minutes or half an hour just changes the day. All of a sudden, people feel recalled to who they really are.
Mhm.
We grew up in nature. We are a part of nature. If we
Absolutely.
can reaffirm it, that's a way of experiencing ourselves as spiritual beings. So all these are roots to the spiritual. All are important. The more we can realize ourselves, um, and one of the ways I kind of look at this is through the lens of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or don't do to other people what you don't want them to do to you, said differently in different religious
Mhm.
traditions. That's a beautiful way to be spiritual,
Mhm.
to really sort of check yourself out. I'm not so interested in highfalutin ideas about, oh, I'm so spiritual. I'm interested, how do people treat me? What do
Yes.
they like? And how do I treat other people? That's
Yes.
how that's the way both the Old and the New Testament, and then also it's there in Islam, it's
Mhm.
there in the yogic tradition. You've got to have that as fundamental. If that's not there, everything else, I think, not so seriously. I don't see it as be loving with other people, treat them
Yes.
with respect. And that's the way you realize the spiritual. And it feels so good too, to do that.
Absolutely. You know, I have been meditating now for over 2 years, and I do pretty intensive meditation every day. And I've had some pretty remarkable experiences during my meditations. And one of them has been feeling like we're actually immersed in love. And Dr. Gordon, it is the most overwhelming experience to realize that actually we're immersed in love. We are surrounded with love. I know it's called dark matter. We don't know what it is. There's all this stuff around us, but it's music and it's love. And knowing that you're actually bathed in love changes your perspective. Because sometimes when you're really depressed or you're really down, you feel like, you get into those thought waves of nobody loves me, nobody cares, I'm all alone. And then to realize, actually, no, I am so loved.
Feel it, and they'll be more in touch with it. For some people, that's a huge leap. And if
Yes.
they can just feel that sense of acceptance or peace for a moment, or connection between their own breathing and the world around them, that's the first step.
It's true.
And then perhaps they'll come to that place that you're describing. Or maybe in listening to a piece of music, and
Oh,
that will help them to hear the music that may be all around us all the time. But it's a stepwise process. For some people, it's dramatic and very all pervasive. For other people, it's just a little bit at a time. And again, patience. Be patient with yourself.
yes. Yes, took me 2 years to get here. So certainly didn't happen overnight.
Well, some people it may take 20 years or 200.
It's true. That's why you need guides. That's why you need people that can accelerate that process, whether that's from a sound healing binaural beats, or whether that's finding a Sadhguru, which is how I got to accelerate my experiences and release my kundalinis. It's because of Sadhguru's
What you're bringing up is really important. There are many different pathways and many, many different ways to experience the spiritual. None, in my opinion and experience, none is better, none is worse necessarily.
Yes.
There are human beings have devised thousands and thousands of different ways. Find one that suits you. And
Yes.
if something doesn't suit you, no matter how many experts, gurus,
Yes.
priests have told you, find another way.
Yeah, don't keep doing it if it's not working.
That's right.
So true. And I'm going to say another kind of woo-woo thing, as they say, watch for signs. I feel the universe is always presenting us with the right option. We just have lost the art of observation or noticing. And if you start to keep a journal, the health journal again is one way you can do it. If you start to make notes of what's showing up in your life over and over again, you might be surprised that that's actually the right thing for you at this point in time. So
It's either the right thing for you, or it's telling you got to, at any rate, it's telling you have to deal with it. That's for
yes,
sure.
yes, exactly, and deal with it. I think the worst thing people can do is when they get depressed is not deal with it and
Exactly.
just to wallow in it and accept it as that's kind of my fate. This is it. This is how I'm going to be. And I think that's when it leads to what we've seen lately. Unfortunately, we've lost some really famous people. It leads to that level of extreme reaction where you end up committing suicide. And Dr. Gordon, I want to thank you again. Your book is so timely because it seems like there's a lot of that going around. And so my goal is to raise awareness with everyone who's feeling that way right now to kind of buy your book, listen to this masterclass. So if you're listening or watching, please share this with everyone out there, because you never know who's going through what and what thoughts that they're feeling.